Michigan, with its rich history and mysterious landscapes, is home to tales that will send chills down your spine. From the eerie glow of the Paulding Light in the woods to the spectral Nain Rouge foretelling doom in Detroit, the state's folklore is filled with ghostly encounters. Wander the haunted grounds of Fort Mackinac, where the restless spirits of soldiers still roam, or venture into the woods near Ada, where the vengeful Ada witch waits for the unwary. Then, there's the legend of the Witch of Belle Isle, a dark figure whose curse lingers over the island's visitors. Each of these stories is a haunting glimpse into the unknown, weaving a tapestry of mystery that begs to be uncovered. Are you brave enough to hear them all? 1. The Ghosts of Fort Mackinac. Located on Mackinac Island in Michigan, Fort Mackinac is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine, making it one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Built in 1780 by the British during the American Revolutionary War, the fort was strategically placed on a bluff overlooking the entrance to the Straits of Mackinac. Over the years, Fort Mackinac has witnessed numerous conflicts, transformations, and personal tragedies, each of which has contributed to its current status as a ghostly haven. Today, Fort Mackinac stands as a preserved National Historic Landmark and is open to the public as part of Mackinac Island State Park. Visitors come from around the world to explore the fort's history and learn about the pivotal role it played in military history, from the War of 1812 to its abandonment by the U.S. Army in 1895. However, it's not just the fort's historical significance that draws attention, it's the numerous accounts of paranormal activity, strange occurrences, and ghostly encounters that make it infamous. For many who visit, the ghosts of Fort Mackinac seem to walk among the living, their spirits tied to the land and history of the place. Fort Mackinac's history is one steeped in both triumph and tragedy. Constructed by the British in the late 18th century to fortify the region during the American Revolutionary War, the fort was later controlled by the United States following the War of 1812. During the war, British forces had occupied the fort, and it was there that much of the conflict between American and British troops took place. After the war, the fort continued to serve as a key military post, witnessing many battles and skirmishes, including some involving Native American tribes as well as soldiers who faced difficult living conditions, harsh winters, and illness. From 1895 onwards, the U.S. Army abandoned the fort, but its history remained etched in its walls. It was not long before tales of ghostly apparitions, strange sounds, and unexplained events began circulating, drawing the attention of both historians and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Over the years, many who have visited the fort, from tourists to staff members, have reported experiencing eerie occurrences that seem to defy explanation. Some believe these supernatural events are the restless spirits of those who once lived, worked, or died at the fort, unable to leave due to untimely deaths, unresolved conflicts, or lingering attachments to the land. Among the most persistent and well-known ghost stories at Fort Mackinac is that of a British soldier, often seen walking along the ramparts or within the fort's barracks. Witnesses have reported glimpsing a figure dressed in the distinctive redcoat uniform of the British Army, sometimes near the entrance to the fort, sometimes at the top of the walls, where soldiers once stood guard. The spirit is believed to be the restless ghost of a soldier who died during one of the fort's many battles or skirmishes. Though no one knows the soldier's identity for certain, several theories suggest he may have been killed during the War of 1812 or in one of the earlier conflicts between the British and American forces. People who have seen the apparition often describe it as a fleeting figure, a silhouette that vanishes when approached or when the observer blinks. Those who claim to have encountered the ghost of the British soldier report feeling an overwhelming sense of coldness in the air, a chilling drop in temperature that often accompanies the spirit's appearance. In many cases, the soldier appears only for a brief moment before disappearing into the walls or around corners, leaving behind only an eerie silence and an unsettling feeling. One of the most tragic ghost stories at Fort Mackinac involves the spirit of a nurse who worked at the fort during its military operations in the 19th century. According to local legend, the nurse fell deeply in love with a young soldier stationed at the fort. Sadly, the soldier was killed in one of the skirmishes or battles that took place at the fort. Overcome with grief and unable to cope with the loss of her lover, the nurse took her own life within the hospital where she had worked. Her spirit, it is believed, remains trapped within the fort, haunting the area of the hospital where she once worked. Many visitors and staff members report hearing soft sobbing or the faint rustling of skirts late at night, accompanied by a cold, sorrowful atmosphere. Some have even claimed to smell lavender, the nurse's favorite scent, filling the air during their visits. One of the most well-known accounts tells of a tour guide who reported seeing a figure in a nurse's uniform standing near the hospital beds, only for the apparition to vanish when approached. Despite the sadness of her story, the nurse's spirit appears to be forever tied to the hospital, unable to find peace after her untimely death. Paranormal investigators have even captured strange electromagnetic readings in the hospital, suggesting the presence of a spirit. The haunting sound of drums is one of the most enduring ghost stories associated with Fort Mackinac. Numerous visitors and staff have reported hearing the distant, muffled beat of drums echoing from the fort, especially in the dead of night. These sounds are described as coming from nowhere, just a low, steady drumming, as if soldiers were still marching and drilling on the parade grounds. Some have even claimed the drumming occurs on particularly quiet, still nights, when there is no wind to carry the sound. Many believe that the drumming is the restless souls of soldiers who died at the fort, particularly those who perished in the War of 1812 or during the various Native American conflicts. The fort was a site of great violence and loss, and the drumming is thought to be a signal from these lost spirits, still marking time as they did in life. While some may dismiss the sound as a product of the wind or the imagination, others insist it is a true paranormal phenomenon, one that adds to the fort's haunting reputation. One of the more touching, yet unsettling, tales involves the ghost of a little girl who is said to haunt the officers' quarters at the fort. The girl, who appears to be around 8 or 9 years old, is often seen playing by herself, wandering through the rooms or sitting in corners talking to invisible companions. Her playful laughter, which sometimes sounds like the giggle of a child at play, has been heard echoing through the fort's quiet halls. Unlike many other spirits, the little girl's ghost does not seem malicious or menacing. Instead, she is often described as being gentle and non-threatening, though her presence is still unsettling for those who encounter her. The identity of the girl is unknown, but some believe she may be the spirit of a child who lived at the fort with her parents, who were either stationed there or part of the garrison. Perhaps the little girl died from an illness or accident while living at the fort, and her spirit was left behind, unable to find peace. Though she does not appear often, those who have reported seeing the little girl have described her as simply vanishing into thin air when approached, disappearing as mysteriously as she had appeared. Perhaps the most common paranormal phenomenon at Fort Mackinac is the sound of disembodied voices. Staff members, visitors, and even paranormal investigators have reported hearing muffled conversations, footsteps, or objects being moved when no one else is present. These sounds tend to occur in areas of the fort such as the barracks, the parade ground, and the officers' quarters. In some cases, people have heard what they believe to be soldiers talking among themselves, or the distant clatter of armor and weapons. In one particularly chilling account, a tour guide reported hearing the unmistakable sound of a soldier's boots clicking on the floor of an empty room. When the guide entered the room to investigate, there was no one there, and the sounds abruptly stopped. Other visitors have heard voices coming from behind closed doors, only to find the rooms completely empty upon opening them. These phantom voices and noises are one of the most commonly reported phenomena at the fort and have contributed to its reputation as one of Michigan's most haunted sites. Today, Fort Mackinac continues to draw visitors from around the world, many of whom come with the hope of experiencing the fort's paranormal activity firsthand. Staff members and guests often share their own eerie encounters, from cold spots to shadowy figures, as they tour the fort's historic grounds. Some claim to feel a sense of being watched, particularly in areas like the barracks, the hospital, and the officers' quarters, where the spirits of soldiers and civilians alike are said to linger. Over the years, paranormal investigators have conducted several investigations at the fort, utilizing tools such as EMF detectors, infrared cameras, and spirit boxes to capture evidence of the supernatural. Their findings have only added to the fort's mystique, with some investigators capturing strange readings and images that suggest the presence of spirits. In one investigation, a team reported unusual fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, which they believe were linked to the presence of spirits. Others have captured shadowy figures or misty forms in photographs taken in areas where no one else was present. The fort's reputation as a haunted location continues to grow, and it remains a popular spot for both history buffs and those interested in the paranormal. The ghosts of Fort Mackinac are an integral part of the island's rich history, serving as both a reminder of the fort's tumultuous past and a testament to the many lives that were affected by its existence. Whether it's the spirit of the British soldier walking the ramparts, the heartbroken nurse wandering the hospital, or the haunting sound of drums marking the passing of time, the spirits of the fort seem forever bound to the land they once inhabited. For those brave enough to visit, Fort Mackinac offers more than just a glimpse into history. It offers a chance to encounter the lingering echoes of the past, as they walk among the living in the form of restless, ghostly apparitions. 2. The Paulding Light. The Paulding Light is one of Michigan's most enduring and intriguing mysteries. The phenomenon, which occurs in the forests outside Paulding, Michigan, has attracted countless visitors and paranormal enthusiasts. Its origin remains unexplained, despite various attempts to offer scientific, folklore-based, and speculative explanations. The Paulding Light is a glowing orb or light that appears in a remote section of woods near the intersection of M45 and Forest Road 107, and it is seen particularly on clear, dark nights. Over the years, the light has been the subject of local lore, scientific investigations, and paranormal explorations. The most widespread and famous version of the legend behind the Paulding Light involves a tragic event in the early 20th century. According to the story, the light is the ghostly manifestation of a railroad brakeman who died in the area, either in an accident or through foul play. One version of the story describes the brakeman being killed when he was struck by a train while attempting to signal the approaching locomotive. In this narrative, his death was sudden and brutal. Unable to find peace, his spirit remained tethered to the place of his death, endlessly searching for his body or redemption. In this version, the glowing light that appears in the woods is believed to be the lantern the brakeman carries as he walks the area at night. Some say the light flickers and moves through the trees in a pattern that resembles a person walking, though it never seems to get any closer or retreat further. Locals claim that it appears in the same spot near the railroad tracks, leading them to believe that the spirit of the brakeman is forever doomed to wander. While the railroad brakeman version is the most commonly told, another popular narrative links the light to a Native American curse. This version suggests that the light is tied to a tribe that once inhabited the area around Paulding. According to the story, settlers encroached upon the land, leading to a tragic conflict with the Native American inhabitants. To seek revenge for the wrongs done to their people, the tribe placed a curse upon the land, vowing that anyone who ventured near would experience a strange and inexplicable occurrence. This curse is believed to be the origin of the Paulding Light, with the light appearing as a manifestation of the spirits of the wronged Native Americans. The light, in this context, could represent a supernatural force that protects the land or serves as a reminder of the historical injustices that occurred. However, this version is often regarded as a blend of Native American folklore and modern paranormal elements, with some local variations on the specific tribe involved. Over the years, scientists and skeptics have proposed several natural explanations for the Paulding Light, many of which aim to explain the phenomenon without invoking paranormal forces or ghosts. Some of the most widely discussed theories include swamp gas and atmospheric reflection. One explanation suggests that the light is caused by the release of swamp gas, a common phenomenon that occurs when decomposing organic matter releases methane or other gases. When these gases interact with atmospheric conditions, they can sometimes produce a faint, glowing light. These types of lights are often seen in areas with high moisture content, such as wetlands, which might explain why the Paulding Light is observed in a forested area with significant vegetation. Another scientific theory centers around atmospheric reflections, where lights from distant sources, such as car headlights, might reflect off trees or other natural obstacles in the forest. The reflection can distort the light's appearance, making it look like a floating orb or an object moving through the woods. In this scenario, the light may not be a singular point but a distortion caused by the terrain. Another more grounded explanation relates to the possibility of vehicle headlights causing the strange light. Since the Paulding Light is often seen near a highway, some skeptics suggest that the light people see may be the reflection of car headlights from the M45 highway, which are distorted by the woods and hills surrounding the area. This theory suggests that the light appears to flicker and move due to the landscape and the refractive effects of the forest. While these scientific theories offer plausible explanations, they fail to account for the consistency of the phenomenon or the many eyewitness reports that describe the light as something far more unusual. The first documented investigations of the Paulding Light began in the 1960s, when people first started to visit the site specifically to witness the phenomenon. Over the years, multiple investigations have been conducted by paranormal enthusiasts, ghost hunters, and skeptics. Some of these investigations have used technology, such as infrared cameras and electromagnetic field (EMF) detectors, but none have conclusively identified the cause of the light. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the Paulding Light continues to be a popular destination for paranormal enthusiasts and thrill seekers. The area around Paulding, Michigan, has become somewhat commercialized in recent years, with informational signs placed near the site to guide visitors to the location. In addition, the light has gained wider recognition due to its inclusion in books, television shows, and documentaries about urban legends and paranormal phenomena. In 2001, the Paulding Light was featured in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which helped to increase its notoriety and attract even more visitors to the site. Since then, various ghost hunting television programs have featured the Paulding Light as a key element of their investigations into unexplained phenomena. The Paulding Light has had a lasting cultural impact on Michigan and the wider paranormal community. It has become part of the folklore of the Upper Peninsula and has been the subject of numerous local legends. Many people in the area view the light as a symbol of the region's mysterious and eerie nature, and the phenomenon continues to fascinate both locals and outsiders. The light also plays a significant role in the local tourism industry, as visitors come from all over the world hoping to experience the strange occurrence. The town of Paulding and the surrounding area have embraced the phenomenon, with the light being celebrated as a part of the local identity. However, the exact source of the Paulding Light continues to elude all attempts at definitive explanation. The Paulding Light remains one of the most enduring mysteries in Michigan. Despite numerous theories and investigations, no one has been able to definitively explain its cause, leaving it shrouded in myth, legend, and speculation. Whether it is the ghost of a railroad brakeman, the lingering effect of a Native American curse, or a natural atmospheric phenomenon, the Paulding Light continues to captivate the imagination of those who witness it and those who attempt to unravel its mysteries. As long as the light continues to appear in the woods near Paulding, Michigan, the mystery will live on, feeding both the local folklore and the curiosity of those who seek to uncover the truth. 3. The Witch of Belle Isle. The Witch of Belle Isle is a deeply rooted Michigan urban legend, one that intertwines elements of witchcraft, mysterious occurrences, and local folklore to create a story that continues to intrigue and haunt the imagination. It centers around Belle Isle, a scenic island park located in the Detroit River, which serves as the backdrop for a legend that has been passed down through generations. This legend involves a solitary, enigmatic woman, often referred to as the Witch of Belle Isle, whose dark influence is said to still linger on the island today. Though various versions of the story exist, they all share common themes of supernatural occurrences, mysterious rituals, and a curse that ties the island to its eerie past. Belle Isle, which sits on the Detroit River between Detroit, Michigan, and Windsor, Ontario, was originally a wilderness area, sparsely populated, and largely untouched. It wasn't until the mid-1800s that it became more recognized as a park and a haven for locals seeking a retreat from the growing industrial city of Detroit. At this time, the story of the Witch of Belle Isle begins to take shape. The witch, as the legend tells it, was a reclusive woman who lived alone on the island, far removed from society. Often described as an odd, eccentric figure, she was a healer who possessed knowledge of herbal medicine, potions, and mysterious practices that allowed her to cure ailments and perform what some believed to be supernatural feats. Her reputation grew, both as a healer and a woman of unusual powers, and she began attracting the attention of both those in need and those who viewed her with suspicion. In the 1800s, belief in witchcraft was still very much alive, and the idea of someone practicing magic outside of conventional medicine or religion was enough to arouse fear and suspicion. The witch's abilities were not fully understood, and her unorthodox methods of healing led many to believe that her powers were beyond the realm of natural understanding. While some sought her help for illnesses or injuries, others began to whisper rumors about the witch's true nature. Her knowledge of plants and potions, and her mysterious ways, were seen as unnatural, and the growing fear of her abilities led to accusations of dark magic and witchcraft. The witch's story took a darker turn when mysterious events began to unfold around Belle Isle. Local legends claimed that people began to disappear, and many believed that the witch was responsible for these vanishings. Some versions suggest that the witch cursed people who crossed her path, while others imply that she was using her powers to punish those who wronged her. Whether or not she was truly responsible for these disappearances is unclear, but it only solidified her reputation as a malevolent force on the island. Eventually, rumors spread beyond the island. Locals began to associate her with dark magic, believing she could summon storms, curse people, and control the weather. She was accused of summoning violent thunderstorms that would strike unexpectedly, causing panic among the people. The fear and mistrust of her grew, and soon, the witch was considered an outcast by the larger Detroit community. One of the most enduring aspects of the legend is the Witch's Stone, a large rock on Belle Isle that is believed to have been the site of the witch's most powerful and dangerous rituals. The stone is described as an imposing, jagged structure that stands out among the landscape of the island. It has become a symbol of the witch's power, a place where she is said to have conducted dark ceremonies to enhance her magic. According to various versions of the legend, the witch would perform these rituals around the stone, often under the cover of night or during violent storms. The rituals were believed to involve invoking spirits, casting curses, or calling upon the forces of nature. Some legends suggest that the witch was able to control the storms that ravaged the island, and the stone became a focal point for these supernatural activities. Visitors to the island, both past and present, have claimed that the stone itself radiates a strange energy, one that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and sends a chill down your spine. The Witch's Stone is a focal point of the legend for another reason. It is said to be the place where the witch disappeared or was perhaps consumed by her own magic. Some versions of the story claim that before she vanished, the witch cursed the island, ensuring that anyone who came near the stone would be cursed or haunted by her spirit. Others say that she merged with the stone, becoming part of it, and that her spirit still lingers there, bound to the island forever. The end of the witch's physical presence on the island is shrouded in mystery. There are conflicting accounts of what happened to her. Some say she was hunted down by locals who feared her powers and eventually executed or driven off the island. In some variations, she is said to have been stoned to death or burned at the stake, accusations of witchcraft growing too strong to ignore. Yet, there is also the suggestion that she was never captured or killed at all. Instead, the witch may have chosen to disappear on her own terms, retreating into the depths of Belle Isle, where she vanished without a trace. It is in this disappearance that the true heart of the legend lies. Some believe that, rather than leaving the island, the witch merged with the land, her spirit becoming one with the island. The Witch's Stone is often said to be the source of her magic, and it is here that her spirit is thought to reside. Visitors who approach the stone are said to experience an unsettling feeling, as if the witch is watching them or is somehow present. Others claim to have seen the witch's ghostly figure near the stone, or in the mist that sometimes blankets the island. The legend continues with a curse that, according to some versions of the story, was placed upon Belle Isle before the witch disappeared. The curse, some say, ensures that anyone who ventures too close to the witch's stone will be plagued by bad luck, misfortune, or even supernatural occurrences. It is said that the witch's anger still lingers, and those who disturb the island or desecrate the stone are at risk of attracting her wrath. Some claim to have heard eerie sounds, whispers, footsteps, or the rustling of leaves, when there is no one else around, while others report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when near the stone. As the years have passed, many who have visited Belle Isle have reported strange, eerie experiences. These encounters have further solidified the belief in the witch's curse and her lingering presence. Some visitors say they have seen a tall, shadowy figure wandering the island, particularly near the witch's stone. This figure is often described as a woman with long, unkempt hair, wearing tattered clothing, and moving in a way that seems unnatural, as if she is not bound by the normal laws of reality. Others have claimed to hear the witch's voice carried by the wind, faint whispers that seem to come from nowhere. These voices are often described as carrying a tone of warning, as if the witch is trying to communicate with those who venture too close to the stone. There are also reports of people feeling an intense sense of being watched, as if the witch is observing them from a distance, her eyes following them wherever they go. One of the most persistent claims is that of strange weather patterns that seem to form quickly over Belle Isle, particularly in areas near the witch's stone. Visitors have described sudden thunderstorms that appear out of nowhere, accompanied by dark clouds and heavy rain, only to dissipate as quickly as they arrived. Some believe these storms are the result of the witch's magic, still active and powerful, even in death. The ongoing supernatural events have led many to consider the possibility that Belle Isle is truly haunted by the spirit of the witch, and that her curse is still in effect. The Witch of Belle Isle has become an integral part of Michigan's folklore, a tale passed down through generations, and a reminder of the unknown forces that may still be at play in the world. The legend of the Witch of Belle Isle continues to fascinate and terrify those who hear it. Whether or not one believes in the supernatural aspects of the story, the Witch of Belle Isle represents something much larger, the enduring power of myth, the fear of the unknown, and the way that urban legends can shape the identity of a place. The Witch of Belle Isle remains a symbol of mystery, her legacy etched into the very stones of the island she once called home. For those who visit Belle Isle today, the story of the witch lingers in the air, just as the echoes of her curse continue to haunt the island. 4. The Nain Rouge. The Nain Rouge, or Red Dwarf in French, is an enigmatic figure in Michigan's folklore, particularly within the city of Detroit. With a reputation as both a trickster and a harbinger of doom, the Nain Rouge has captivated the imaginations of generations, becoming inextricably linked to the city's history of misfortune, struggle, and resilience. Its story has evolved from a terrifying omen of impending disasters to a more playful, symbolic figure celebrated by Detroiters. Let's delve deeper into the Nain Rouge's origins, its place in Detroit's history, and its transformation into a modern symbol of the city. The earliest known stories of the Nain Rouge date back to the early 1700s, when the French explorer Antoine Laumet de la Mothe, Sieur de Cadillac, established the settlement of Detroit in 1701. According to legend, Cadillac and his crew encountered the Nain Rouge shortly after their arrival. The creature, described as a small, gnome-like being with glowing red eyes and a devilish appearance, supposedly appeared before Cadillac, warning him of the misfortunes that would plague the settlement. This encounter between Cadillac and the Nain Rouge is central to the legend. Cadillac, often portrayed as being arrogant and dismissive, allegedly mocked or even attempted to strike the creature with his sword. In some versions, he is said to have cursed the land and dismissed the creature's warnings. This moment is often seen as a catalyst for the curses that would follow, with the Nain Rouge being blamed for subsequent hardships and tragedies in Detroit's history. Some versions of the story suggest that Cadillac's encounter with the Nain Rouge happened while he was still on a voyage to the region, while other accounts place it after the foundation of Detroit. Regardless of the specific timeline, the creature's role as a prophet of disaster remains the same in many iterations of the tale. As Detroit grew and prospered, so too did the legend of the Nain Rouge, who continued to be seen as a harbinger of doom. Over time, the creature became associated with specific events in Detroit's history, especially those that were characterized by widespread devastation, disaster, or chaos. The following events are often linked to the Nain Rouge's ominous presence. One of the first major disasters linked to the Nain Rouge was the Great Fire of 1805. The fire destroyed much of Detroit, and the Nain Rouge was said to have appeared in the days leading up to the catastrophe. Witnesses claimed to have seen the creature prowling the streets, and its presence was interpreted as an omen of the devastating fire that would soon engulf the city. The connection between the fire and the Nain Rouge cemented the creature's role as a symbol of disaster. Another major event tied to the Nain Rouge is the Detroit riots of 1967, one of the most significant instances of civil unrest in the city's history. The tensions between racial communities and the police, combined with long-standing socio-economic issues, led to widespread violence. Some urban legends suggest that the Nain Rouge appeared just before the riots broke out, further associating the creature with times of civil unrest and tragedy. Sightings of the Nain Rouge in the days leading up to the riots were believed to signal the impending chaos. In addition to natural and social disasters, the Nain Rouge became associated with Detroit's struggles during periods of economic downturn. As the city's automotive industry began to decline, and jobs were lost, the Nain Rouge's presence was often interpreted as a symbol of Detroit's decline. The creature's appearance was believed to foreshadow bad luck for the city, which struggled with rising unemployment, population loss, and deteriorating infrastructure. The Nain Rouge thus became a metaphor for the troubles faced by the Motor City. Beyond the major events in Detroit's history, the Nain Rouge is also part of local folklore in which residents describe personal encounters with the creature. These encounters, though often terrifying, add to the rich tapestry of the Nain Rouge's legend. People recount seeing the creature while walking through Detroit streets at night or in desolate parts of the city. In many cases, these sightings are accompanied by misfortunes that happen to the witness shortly thereafter, such as accidents, job losses, or other personal tragedies. These stories reinforce the idea that the Nain Rouge was a bringer of bad luck. One particularly popular tale involves a person who spotted the creature while driving late at night, only to later experience a flat tire or car accident. In these accounts, the creature is described as evading capture or disappearing in a puff of smoke, which adds to its ghostly and elusive nature. Over time, the Nain Rouge became more than just a harbinger of large-scale disasters. It was also seen as a personal symbol of misfortune, haunting individual lives in the form of bad luck. As the legend of the Nain Rouge continued to grow, so too did its evolution from a figure of fear and foreboding to one of celebration. The most notable transformation came in the early 2010s with the creation of the Nain Rouge Parade. The parade, founded in 2010 by local Detroiters, was a way to reclaim the Nain Rouge legend, turning the once feared creature into a symbol of Detroit's resilience and strength. Rather than fear the Nain Rouge, Detroiters began to embrace it with humor, satire, and revelry. The Nain Rouge Parade is held annually in Detroit, typically in the spring, and involves a procession of people dressed as the Nain Rouge or other mythical characters. The event has become a celebration of the city's history, highlighting both its challenges and its triumphs. The parade has gained popularity over the years, drawing both locals and tourists to the city to partake in the festivities. The Nain Rouge is no longer seen as an omen of disaster but as a figure that represents Detroit's ability to overcome adversity and to maintain a sense of pride and humor in the face of hardship. In contemporary culture, the Nain Rouge has been interpreted in various ways. Some view the creature as a metaphor for the city's economic and social struggles, while others see it as a symbol of the city's transformation from industrial decline to a more vibrant, revitalized community. The Nain Rouge's connection to bad luck and disaster has, over time, become less about fear and more about overcoming those difficulties. Furthermore, the Nain Rouge has inspired various forms of media, including books, art, and even music. It is sometimes used as a symbol of rebellion against misfortune or a reminder of the city's gritty determination. In this sense, the Nain Rouge represents both the hardship and the spirit of resilience that defines Detroit. The Nain Rouge is typically described as a small, imp-like figure, standing no taller than a few feet. Its appearance is unsettling, with glowing red eyes that are said to pierce through the darkness. Its face is often described as twisted or distorted, with sharp, pointed teeth that add to its sinister look. The creature's small size and eerie appearance make it a particularly unsettling presence, especially when encountered alone or in the dark. In some stories, the Nain Rouge is said to have supernatural powers, such as the ability to shape-shift or vanish into thin air. Its movements are often described as quick and unpredictable, adding to the sense of unease that it generates. Some accounts claim that its presence brings an oppressive atmosphere, where the air becomes heavy, and people feel a sense of dread or discomfort. Despite its fearsome traits, the Nain Rouge is also portrayed as a mischievous figure, delighting in the confusion and misfortune it causes. In some versions of the story, the creature takes pleasure in playing pranks, such as misleading travelers or causing small accidents, before disappearing without a trace. The Nain Rouge has left an indelible mark on Detroit's cultural landscape. While it may have started as a figure of dread, it has now become a symbol of Detroit's ability to endure and thrive in the face of hardship. Through the Nain Rouge parade, the city has transformed this once feared creature into a beloved and celebrated figure, demonstrating Detroit's spirit of resilience. As Detroit continues to evolve, the Nain Rouge remains an essential part of the city's folklore, a reminder of both its past struggles and its hopeful future. The creature serves as a testament to the enduring strength of a city that has weathered many storms, and as Detroit continues to reinvent itself, the legend of the Nain Rouge will likely continue to be told for generations to come. 5. The Ada Witch. The Ada Witch is a haunting and chilling urban legend that has been passed down for generations in Ada, Michigan. As with many legendary tales, the line between fact and fiction becomes blurred, and over time, the story of the Ada Witch has taken on different forms and nuances. Despite the variations, the core of the tale remains the same, a tragic story of a woman wronged, a curse cast upon a village, and the lingering presence of a spirit that refuses to be forgotten. This is the full, detailed version of the Ada Witch legend, from her early years to her supposed return to haunt the land. In the early 1800s, Ada was a small, rural settlement in Michigan. The area was thick with forests and untamed wilderness, offering little in the way of community. Most of the village's inhabitants lived simple, hard-working lives, with a few families spread out across the land. One of these families was the Rookwoods, a quiet and private family who kept to themselves, far from the bustling social activities of the town. The legend tells of Margaret Rookwood, a woman who lived alone on the outskirts of Ada. She was not much older than 30 when she began to attract attention for all the wrong reasons. She wasn't a particularly striking woman, but her wild, untamed appearance set her apart. Her hair, long and tangled, cascaded down her back like a dark, unruly mass, and her clothes were always ragged and worn. She would rarely be seen in town, but when she did appear, her manner was odd. She spoke little, avoided eye contact, and seemed perpetually lost in her thoughts. The villagers soon began to whisper about Margaret. They found her unusual, even unsettling. As is often the case with those who live on the fringes of society, her peculiarities were enough to breed suspicion. Some said she had an aura of sadness about her, while others thought her quiet demeanor to be an indication of something darker. The more they saw her wandering the woods at odd hours, the more they began to wonder if she was involved in something sinister. It was during this time that strange occurrences began to plague the village. Animals started to vanish without a trace, first chickens, then livestock, and eventually even beloved family pets. The crops, which had once thrived, began to wither and die in an unnatural manner, despite the efforts of the farmers to tend to them. Locals reported hearing strange noises in the night, groans, howls, and whispers that seemed to carry on the wind, even when the air was still. The most alarming event occurred one bitterly cold winter's evening when the daughter of a local farmer fell gravely ill after having an encounter with Margaret in the woods. The child had wandered too far from home and had come across Margaret, who was said to have warned her not to enter the woods. But the child, ignoring the witch's warning, ventured deeper into the forest. Within hours, the girl fell ill with a high fever, and within a week, she passed away. Her parents were devastated, but it was the whispers that followed her death that turned into something more dangerous. Rumors quickly began to spread that Margaret had cursed the child. Some said she had been seen speaking to the girl in the woods, her lips moving as if in a chant. Others claimed Margaret had used dark magic to cause the child's illness, her powers reaching beyond what could be explained. As these rumors grew, a fierce, irrational fear gripped the village. It wasn't long before the fear of Margaret turned into outright accusations of witchcraft. The villagers, already uneasy and frightened by their inexplicable misfortune, needed a scapegoat. And Margaret, with her strange ways and solitary lifestyle, seemed the perfect target. The townspeople could no longer ignore the signs that something was amiss. Whispers turned into open threats, and soon, a group of concerned citizens gathered to confront Margaret. At the head of this mob was the village elder, a devout and pious man named Samuel Reed, who had made it his life's mission to protect Ada from any perceived evil. Armed with torches and pitchforks, they set out to find Margaret and demand answers for the mysterious occurrences plaguing the town. When they arrived at Margaret's home, they were met with an unsettling silence. The house, built on the outskirts of the village, seemed abandoned at first. The door was ajar, and the wind whistled through the trees. As the mob entered, they found Margaret sitting by the hearth, her eyes closed, her face unreadable. It was said that she appeared calm, almost resigned to the fate she knew was coming. Some versions of the legend suggest that Margaret had been expecting them, having foreseen their arrival through her knowledge of the supernatural. Others claim she greeted them with a warning, "Do not come any closer, or you will bring the curse upon yourselves." But the mob, led by Reed, was already determined to end the evil they believed Margaret represented. They bound her with ropes and dragged her to the town square, where a trial was hastily set up. The proceedings were swift and merciless, and in a matter of hours, the village council condemned Margaret to death, citing her association with dark forces and the supposed curse she had cast upon the village. The exact manner of Margaret's execution is unclear in most versions of the legend, but two main versions dominate the story. In one, she was hanged from a tree at the edge of the village, her body left to dangle as a public warning to others. In another, more chilling version, Margaret was burned at the stake. As the flames consumed her body, she is said to have cursed the villagers with her final breath, vowing that her spirit would return to haunt Ada and ensure that those who had wronged her would never find peace. "I will be the wind in the trees, the shadows in the night, and the cold breath of fear that chills your bones," she allegedly cried out. "You will regret what you've done. I will return when you least expect it." Some versions suggest that as the fire burned, the villagers heard a chilling laugh, echoing through the woods. Others recall that the flames seemed to flicker and die out strangely, as if nature itself was unwilling to allow her to perish. The aftermath of Margaret's death was swift and unsettling. The villagers who had participated in her execution began to suffer. Crops continued to fail, and strange diseases spread through the town, claiming the lives of several people. Some of the key figures involved in her trial vanished mysteriously, never to be seen again. Those who remained began to hear strange sounds in the night, the sound of footsteps following them through the woods, the distant murmur of a woman's voice carried on the wind, and the rustle of trees that seemed to whisper Margaret's name. The most disturbing phenomenon, however, was the wind. It seemed as though the wind itself had taken on a malevolent force, carrying with it a sense of unease. It would howl through the trees, even on calm days, and in the dead of night, it would whistle through the village with an eerie intensity. The wind was said to carry whispers, soft and indistinct at first, but gradually growing louder until the voice was unmistakable. It was Margaret's voice, speaking in a language no one could understand, her words filled with anger and sorrow. Some claim to have seen Margaret's ghost wandering the woods at night. Her figure was often described as a tall, shadowy presence, with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce the darkness. The stories tell of those who ventured too far into the woods at night, only to be found the next day, lost and delirious, claiming to have seen the Ada Witch herself watching them from the trees. As the years passed, the town of Ada was never the same. People still reported seeing glowing eyes in the woods, and some claimed to have seen a shadowy figure moving among the trees. Those who dared to enter the woods at night often spoke of being followed, of feeling the cold brush of something unseen, and hearing the eerie whispering of Margaret's voice. Those who were brave enough to venture deep into the forest sometimes claimed to see her figure standing at the edge of the trees, her face obscured by the shadows. Several people, particularly those who had been involved in her execution, disappeared without a trace over the years. The village elder, Samuel Reed, was among the first to vanish, followed by other prominent villagers. Some say they were taken by the Ada Witch, while others believe they simply fled, unable to bear the weight of the curse any longer. But regardless of the reason, the disappearances only fueled the legend of the Ada Witch. Deep in the forest near Ada, there were said to be hidden caves and ruins, places where Margaret had practiced her magic. These sites became known as the Ada Witch's lair. The caves were said to contain strange symbols carved into the stone, remnants of her rituals, and even broken pieces of arcane objects that she had used in her dark practices. But the air around these places was thick with an oppressive sense of fear. Locals warned others to stay away, for those who entered the caves were often overcome with a sense of dread, and many were said to have never returned. Even today, the Ada Witch remains a dark and ominous part of Michigan's folklore. Some claim that her ghost still wanders the woods, seeking revenge on the descendants of those who wronged her. Others believe that her curse has permeated the land, affecting anyone who dares to trespass on the sacred ground where she was executed. The legend of Margaret Rookwood, the Ada Witch, continues to captivate the imagination of those who hear it, serving as a chilling reminder of the dangers of fear, superstition, and the power of an angry spirit. The Ada Witch's curse lives on, as she lingers in the trees, in the wind, and in the shadows, forever watching, forever waiting.